afternoon, I'm Katie Wilson and you are watching AnewZ. Let's see your headlines. US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin hold a phone call. Trump's sweeping tax cut and spending bill wins congressional approval. Russia becomes the first country to officially recognise the Taliban government in Afghanistan. President Trump's phone call on Thursday with Russian President Vladimir Putin centred on the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Frustration is mounting in Washington that efforts to end the war have not resulted in any progress so far. Our correspondent Ubi Shabandar has more from Washington, DC.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin spoke over the phone on Thursday. The conversation centered on the ongoing war in Ukraine, with President Trump calling for a rapid end to that conflict. A Kremlin official told the press that Putin stressed that the Russian military would continue its ongoing operations in Ukraine. Russian forces occupy approximately 20% of Ukraine's territory, with most of it captured since the launch of a full-scale invasion in 2022. Almost immediately following the phone call between the two leaders, Russia launched another barrage of drone attacks on the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, suggesting that Moscow does not intend to end the war anytime soon. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, meanwhile, told reporters in Denmark that he hopes to speak to Trump as soon as Friday about the Pentagon's recent decision to pause shipments of air defense systems and artillery shells that were slated to be transported to Ukraine. Pentagon officials were concerned that the U.S. military stockpile of these weapons was running dangerously low and could be needed in case of an unexpected conflict on other fronts. The Russian army has launched its summer offensive in Ukraine and has been launching frequent waves of missile strikes on Ukrainian centers of population. Ukraine faces a Russian summer offensive and frequent attacks on a number of civilian targets. Though outnumbered, Ukrainian forces have been able to strike deep into Russian territory. Earlier in the week, a Ukrainian missile strike in the Russian Kursk region managed to eliminate Major General Michael Gudkov, the Russian Navy's deputy commander. And a number of Ukrainian drone strikes have managed to destroy Russian fighter bombers parked in air bases hundreds of kilometers away from the Ukrainian border. But concerns are growing that Russian forces, with their persistent pressure, could manage to break through Ukrainian lines in the eastern part of the country. Ukrainian officials are hoping that they can convince the White House to continue American shipments of weapons in order to help Ukrainian forces to counter Russian strikes and to blunt the Kremlin's summer offensive. President Trump also told reporters late on Thursday that he, quote, is not happy about the war in Ukraine. And he stressed that his discussion with Vladimir Putin did not make any progress about the war. The president also said that the U.S. has not paused weapon supplies to Ukraine, but, quote, in his words, we have to make sure that we have enough for ourselves. Thus far, there seems to be no end in sight for the war in Ukraine, as the casualties on both the Russian and Ukrainian sides continue to mount. Ubi Shabandar for AnewZ, Washington, D.C.
Well, President Trump raised the issue of bringing the Ukraine conflict to a swift halt in his phone call with President Putin. The pair spoke for nearly an hour on a negotiated solution on Ukraine, but the Kremlin said Russia won't step back from its goals. Dasha Chernyshova has more from Moscow.
Moscow says it will continue to pursue its goals in Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Thursday in a phone call with his American counterpart Donald Trump. Commenting on the call, Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov stressed that Moscow needs to eliminate all the root causes of the confrontation. Despite that, Ushakov said that Russia will continue to seek a negotiated settlement for the conflict in Ukraine. Putin said Moscow was ready to continue direct talks with Kyiv and to hold a third round. Putin also informed Trump about the implementation of the Istanbul Agreement achieved in the previous round of talks. Trump spoke of the soonest possible cessation of military activities in Ukraine. Earlier, the Kremlin said that the suspension of American arms supplies to Kyiv would bring the end to the special military operation closer. The two have also discussed developments in Syria, Iran and the Middle East in general, as well as a series of joint projects that Russia and the United States could work on in areas like energy, economy and space exploration. Dasha Chernysova in Moscow for AnewZ.
At least 23 people were left wounded after Kyiv was hit by one of the largest aerial attacks on Ukraine so far. Russia launched a record number of drones and missiles overnight, triggering massive fires, injuries and widespread destruction across the Ukrainian capital.
Overnight into Friday, Kyiv's skies lit up as air defense units battled an intense Russian drone and missile onslaught, one of the largest since the start of the war. According to Ukraine's Air Force, over 500 drones and 11 missiles were launched, with the capital as the main target. Air raid sirens rang for over 8 hours. Explosions echoed across the city, lighting up the night and setting multiple buildings ablaze. Emergency crews spent hours containing fires and evacuating people and pets from damaged homes and garages. Many residents spent the night underground, in metro stations, shelters and parking garages.
I woke up to the sound of explosions. First the drones started buzzing and then the explosions began. Then people started screaming outside. The explosions from the drones kept coming. I took my mother into the hallway. When things seemed to calm down, we went back to our flat. Then the explosions started again. They were getting closer and closer.
It's difficult to breathe here. We have packed some belongings and are going to the countryside. It's not possible to live in the flat anymore.
As dawn broke over, Kyiv counted the cost of a night under siege. Dozens were wounded, many hospitalized, and the city left in rubble.
Now, President Trump expressed strong concern for the people of Gaza, saying he wants them to be safe because they've been through hell. He made the comment ahead of hosting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu next week, with the aim of pushing for a ceasefire. Hamas is demanding guarantees that the US-backed 60-day ceasefire would genuinely end the war before agreeing to it. Previously, our colleague James Ezimoha discussed the upcoming meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu with Lieutenant General Marco Sironha. Marco said that ending the war in Gaza is in the interests of all sides, but noted that both Trump and Netanyahu have their own ambitions. Using the example of an Israel-Iran ceasefire, Marco expressed his belief that Trump could push Netanyahu towards a ceasefire.
Donald Trump is the only one that can do it. Maybe 1 month ago, nobody believed that Donald Trump could have imposed a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, and they did it. So it's I suppose that's the only one. It's important for the United States because the United States have a view for the Middle East of peace. Yeah, I know that, for peace, all the governments, all the countries can improve their lives. Of course, we are not going to have a solution for all the problems of Middle East, a lot of them, but at least peace, it's important to put people sitting together and to diplomatically try to exchange views and figure out solutions for the several problems that the region has. Even Israel, even the United States, as you know, and Israel also. So open some links with Syria also to try to involve Syria. Iran should be involved also in the security architecture of the Middle East security. It's important also. So it's the main thing is stopping hostilities and try to figure out a solution and put people seated together to discuss and to come to terms with the end of the war and find political solutions for the conflicts.
President Trump's massive tax and spending bill has narrowly passed the House, setting the stage for him to sign it into law. The bill locks in major tax cuts while cutting funding for healthcare and social programmes, fueling debate over its impact on the nation's debt and working families.
After months of political wrangling, US President Donald Trump's tax and spending package passed its final test in Congress. The Republican-controlled House approved the 869-page bill by a narrow 218 to 214 margin, passing it by just 4 votes.
On this vote, the yeas are 218, the nays are 214. The motion is adopted.
The One Big Beautiful Bill is a central part of Trump's 2024 campaign promises. It makes his 2017 tax cuts permanent and introduces new breaks for tips and overtime pay. It also funnels billions into border enforcement and immigration crackdowns, while cutting dozens of federal programs. Critics say the bill cuts Medicaid, reduces food aid, scraps green energy credits, and is estimated to add $3.4 trillion to the country's debt. Some experts believe Republicans voted out of loyalty to Trump rather than thinking about possible consequences of the bill.
Some Republicans voted for this bill despite their own personal preferences. So some people may have been sort of individual losers, if you will, perhaps people who are concerned about the size of the national debt but voted for this bill anyway, largely because of their loyalty to Donald Trump. There's also some Republicans who are more moderate, who are concerned about cutting Medicaid benefits, and they still cast a vote for this bill.
The Congressional Budget Office says the bill will push U.S. debt past $36 trillion. However, some experts think that Democrats who voted for the bill did it as a political move.
I think Democrats are going to adopt a bit of a populist message themselves, saying that Republicans are extending taxes and giving new taxes to the wealthiest Americans while hurting the medical benefits for poorer Americans. And so I think that is a political tactic that is likely to be successful for Democrats.
With both sides gearing up for a messaging war, political observers say how this bill is framed could determine control of Congress.
The United States has removed export restrictions on advanced chip design software to China, signalling a major change in trade relations between the two countries. Our correspondent Manu Makdoum has more from Beijing.
The United States has officially lifted export restrictions on advanced chip design software to China, marking a significant shift in bilateral trade policy. The move benefits key U.S. semiconductor firms, including Cadence, Synopsys, and Siemens, whose tools are critical for China's semiconductor capabilities. The step is widely seen as a partial reversal of the tech decoupling strategy that Washington has been aggressively pushing and pursuing in recent years. The U.S. has also rescinded curbs on ethane export to China, finally allowing petrochemical American shipments to resume. The rollback measures are prompted by growing concerns among American industries about the loss of market share and the long-term impacts of these highly restrictive trade policies on the global supply chain. While stakeholders from both sides have welcomed the news, it is not a full normalization of trade relations. Other restrictions, especially regarding high-performance computing chips and sensitive aerospace components, are still in place. However, the news indicates a tactful recalibration by the Trump administration amid the ongoing WTO scrutiny and diplomatic dialogue. For China, this news provides some breathing space for the country to sustain its semiconductor ambitions and stabilize industrial inputs without resorting to retaliatory measures, at least for now. Manu Makdoum, AnewZ, Beijing.
Germany is halting refugee admissions under a United Nations resettlement programme. Earlier this year, the government made moves towards enforcing stricter border controls towards refugees, some of whom are asylum seekers. The decision has left thousands of Afghans stranded in legal uncertainty.
Germany has suspended refugee admissions under a United Nations resettlement programme. The admission programme began in October 2022, intending to bring up to 1,000 Afghans per month to Germany. However, fewer than 1,600 arrived in 2 years due to delays and flight cancellations. The CDU, in talks with the SPD, is pushing tougher asylum rules, including turning away those arriving via safe countries. Germany's Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt defended the government's continued rejection of migrants at the border, citing high arrival numbers and legal clarity. He stressed that Germany cannot cope with the current level of asylum seekers. Meanwhile, thousands of Afghan refugees remain in limbo. In Pakistan, many, including women's rights advocates like 25-year-old Kimia, wait anxiously, unsure if they'll be accepted or forced to return to Afghanistan.
We don't have any update, so we're scared that if they don't accept us or if they reject us, so we must go Afghanistan, and it's hard for all of us because the situation of Afghanistan for girls and women is too much hard.
In Germany, protests have sparked in Berlin, where activists accuse the government of breaking promises made after the 2021 withdrawal.
We are here today because the German government made a promise 4 years ago. And 4 years is a long time for politicians. They tend to forget what happened the day before yesterday. That's why we're here today, to remind them of this promise.
At the same time, deportations of rejected Afghan asylum seekers have resumed. Many, like Mohammad Mojib Razai, face legal uncertainty despite having lived and worked in Europe for years.
I feel really exhausted because I've been waiting to get a status since 2022 because I came to Cyprus, and that's one of the European Union countries. And since that time, I don't have any specific status or a residence permit or work permit.
With over 2,400 Afghans stuck in Pakistan and thousands more in early stages of the resettlement process, their future remains uncertain.
Russia has formally recognised the Taliban-led government in Afghanistan, becoming the first country to do so since the group took power in 2021. The Russian Foreign Ministry said it aims to strengthen cooperation in security and economic sectors, including energy and infrastructure. While no other country has formally recognised the Taliban government, several countries, including China, the UAE, Uzbekistan and Pakistan, designated ambassadors to Kabul in a step towards recognition. Georgia has expanded the powers of its migration authorities amid a rise in deportations. New laws now allow police and migration officers to inspect the homes and workplaces of suspected undocumented foreigners. They can enter private property with a court order or owner's consent and request documents like work permits. In the first half of 2025, Georgia deported more than 500 foreigners. New rules will tighten fines and entry bans for visa violations starting in September. From March next year, foreigners will need special work permits. Heads of states and governments of Economic Organisation Cooperation member states have gathered in Khankendi, Azerbaijan, for the 17th Eco Summit. The event started a couple of minutes ago, and our correspondent Narchi Jahangali is right now outside the venue.
The 17th Economic Cooperation Organization Summit has officially kicked off here in Khankendi, Azerbaijan, bringing together high-ranking officials from all 10 member states. We are reporting from just outside the main venue, where moments ago we witnessed the arrival of presidents, prime ministers and ministers representing ECO countries. Among the distinguished guests are President of Turkey Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President of Iran Masoud Pezeshkian, Prime Minister of Pakistan Shehbaz Sharif, as well as the presidents of Uzbekistan, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan's Prime Minister, Turkmenistan's Foreign Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister of Afghanistan. As the summit unfolds, we are stationed at the press room, where the atmosphere is focused and fast-paced. Officials are delivering their speeches and we are following the latest statements closely. The meeting began a couple of minutes ago with President Ilham Aliyev of Azerbaijan opening the summit. In his speech, he emphasized the strategic significance of the ECO platform for both the region and the wider world. As global attention increasingly turns toward this region, the 17th ECO summit could mark a pivotal moment. Given the current geopolitical tensions and the shifting global landscape, the timing of this summit is especially critical. The discussions today hold particular weight. Still, challenges remain: differing economic priorities, instability in some member states like Afghanistan, and external pressures such as sanctions on Iran. Yet ECO continues to serve as one of the few forms for consistent, structured dialogue, and that dialogue has never been more vital. As the summit progresses, we expect key announcements and important decisions to be made. For the latest developments, stay tuned to AnewZ on all platforms. This is Narçiçek Cahangirli with Nicat Kasımov reporting from the 17th ECO summit in Khankendi. Back to you.
Armenia has formally announced its intention to join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Yerevan says that the country aligns with the SCO's core principles. Armenia is currently an observer state and became a dialogue partner in 2016. China has been encouraging deeper Armenian engagement with the bloc. Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev and Armenia's Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan are expected to meet later this month in Dubai to advance peace talks, according to some media outlets. The meeting follows earlier discussions in Albania as both sides try to resolve remaining obstacles to a historic agreement. Joining us to discuss this is Ambassador Aydin Norhan, former Turkish diplomat. Thank you for being with us. Now, Ambassador, given that a draft peace treaty already exists, what are the remaining barriers to signing it?
I think the most important thing is the constitution, we can say, and then, of course, Zangezur corridor, and then the missions of Minsk Group and EUMA would be, I think, the top points to be discussed. But let me start with, you just gave the news of ECO Summit, Economic Cooperation Organization.
Let's stick with this upcoming talks between Aliyev and Pashinyan, and I want to focus on constitutional change.
Yes, I will. My idea is Armenia becoming a member of ECO. How would it happen? After peace. And Pashinyan is for peace. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, he said, if the Turks open to Central Asia, so what? He said. Am I right? Did I hear correctly? I think he said it. Now, he is for peace. And let me tell you, the relations between Russia and Azerbaijan are going great.
Let's stick with Armenia for a bit longer. How, internally in Armenia, how realistic do you think those constitutional changes will be?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Russia is mingling in our peace process. That's what I try to say. The church, and then Russia's scrambling, losing its influence, region of influence. So you cannot talk about Azerbaijan-Armenia peace process alone. It is on the table, and we must, all of us, do our best to finish this business until the end of July. Any day we lose, things are going to be more serious. See, it was Russia, it was US, France, European Union in general. Now European Union said, we want peace. That's a good point. But Russia is worried. So do it quickly, changing the constitution. We should help Pashinyan quickly to do this. That's important. The European group, Minsk group, etc. These are easy questions, not a big deal. Zangezur corridor is what we want as Azerbaijan. So that is, I think, Pashinyan is coming to this point. So do anything we can to get the peace within this month. Any day we lose, Russia is going to be pulled into a trap by the Western powers to do what he did in Ukraine.
Thank you very much for your insights and for joining us on the programme.
Thank you.
Now, Kazakhstan plans to upgrade its transport network to boost freight traffic and trade. The country's president spoke to the transport minister, stressing the need to expand road, rail and air links, emphasising Kazakhstan's strategic goal of becoming a key transit hub, connecting trade routes across Eurasia. Wildfires in Turkey's Izmir have killed 2 people in forced evacuations as firefighters battle flames fueled by strong winds. Authorities say a group linked to Kurdish militants claimed responsibility for multiple fires, while investigations continue into possible accidental causes.
Wildfires in western Turkey's Izmir province have claimed a second life, as blazes rage into their 7th day across several regions. Ibrahim Demir, a backhoe operator, died Tuesday while battling flames in the Ödemiş district. An 81-year-old bedridden man died from smoke inhalation after fire reached his home in the same area, marking the first fatality since the fires began. Governor Süleyman Elban said 37 other villagers were safely evacuated. A group calling itself the Children of Fire, claiming ties to the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, has taken responsibility for dozens of fires across 6 Turkish cities. The PKK, which announced it was ceasing its insurgency in May, has not commented. Firefighters, supported by aircraft and helicopters, are intensifying efforts in the Aegean town of Sezme, a key tourism area west of Ödemiş. Strong winds continue to hinder containment as fires spread through forested zones, causing highway closures and evacuations. The Izmir Forestry Directorate has deployed planes, helicopters, fire engines and heavy equipment to fight the fires. Local residents are assisting emergency crews amid challenging conditions. Authorities have detained 2 suspects who may have accidentally started one fire while using a power tool at a construction site in Buka district. The investigation remains ongoing.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to AnewZ.